everybody. I wanted to go ahead and welcome you all to our awards ceremony for Fiber Options Material Exploration. This exhibition happens to be one of my favorites because of the artists like you who have the vision to create these pieces from seemingly ordinary but a huge variety of things. So each day while this exhibition is up, I am surrounded by rose petals, cables, faux fur, different kinds of lace, felt. It's just an amalgamation of different things that come together and make just a really incredible exhibition. So because of that, I just want to take a moment and thank you all for sharing your work with us here. I do hope that you get a chance to come into the gallery and see these pieces all together in exhibition. I also want to take a moment and thank Cass McGowan, who is herself an assemblage artist who incorporates fiber into her own work. Cass chaired and coordinated this exhibition. We hold this exhibition every other year, and it truly benefits from her commitment and organization. So a big thank you to Cass McGowan for her dedication to the Fiber Options exhibition. With that, I want to go ahead and introduce our juror, Hillary Fayle. Hillary has an MFA in Craft and Materials Studies from Virginia Commonwealth University and a BFA from Buffalo State College. She is an assistant professor and head of the fiber area in the Department of Craft and Materials Studies at Virginia Commonwealth University. And she has previously taught at the Penland School of Craft in North Carolina, the Mediterranean Art and Design Program in Italy, and Yasser University in Turkey. Her work has been widely exhibited and is included in permanent collections around the world. Please take a moment to check out her website and her Instagram to see a delicate collection of embroidered leaves and lovely cut work of both paper and natural leaves. And with that, Hillary, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Anne and Cass and Laura and Julie for facilitating the ceremony. And honestly, this entire exhibition, I know you have done so much work behind the scenes to get all of this together and to show off these incredible works. And I'm definitely really sorry that I can't be there in person to celebrate with everyone. But it's been such a pleasure to look through all of the work, and it's really such an honor to juror the show. You all made my my job really difficult because there's such a massive amount of fantastic work to choose from. So I guess we can move on maybe from this slide, and I will get into a little bit more about the exhibition. So this is just a little bit that I wrote about the works in this show, and you know, having works come from so many different people and just kind of this type of call, I think really tends to bring together a lot of works that are about so many different things. And so it's really fun to think about themes that kind of run between all of the making and between all of the material. So the works selected for this exhibition, though visually unique, reflect a deep and universal connection to cloth and the expansive ways that these techniques and materials can be used as a means of expression. Through the explorations in process, material, and form, these works reflect a universality of human experience. They're interpretive of our joys and struggles and act as portraits of the people, the places, and the past that tell our stories. So that is the official statement. And then I guess from here, we'll move right into the honorable mention awards. So the first honorable mention is called If I Had a Voice by Miriam Omura. And this is the first time that I'm actually seeing the artists. So congratulations, Miriam. And I will talk just briefly about each work before we move on to the next. So in thinking about textiles, you know, this is called If I Had a Voice, and thinking about the stories that textiles would tell, and if they could talk to us, if they could tell us something, that also goes to the makers and who, you know, who are these women, and looking, you know, I'm saying that because of the portrait that's sort of embedded in this piece itself, but thinking about the silence of the women who made them, and this long lineage of textile artists kind of echoing the same life experiences and the same gestures of making throughout time and throughout history. And that's something that I actually think about a lot in my own work too, how these processes that we're using, you know, our hands are doing the exact same gesture as everyone who ever made in the same way throughout history. And so this piece, I just thought, you know, that it's subtle and it's quiet, but it's also really powerful. And I like to, you know, think about that as maybe, something that represented the person that actually made it, or thinking about, the lineage of just women makers in the past. The next piece, and again, this piece is called Isomorphic 12, and this is Jacobo Alonso, or Jacobo. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm just seeing it for the first time. Congratulations to you. I love this piece. It made me think about felt, and I know this is synthetic felt, but just how this material, which traditionally would have come from a body and then is being manipulated to form another body in these layers, and this manipulation of the material to get it to do this and to speak another language was something that I just kept thinking about. And the way that it's cut, obviously, like there's a lot of technology going on there, but it's so reminiscent also of the hand and also of the body, and the way that it sort of becomes both abstract and very crisp and clear in certain angles. There's a lot of just facets to this that I really enjoyed. And it's something that definitely, the layering is so curious to me. And it got me thinking about, like, could there be, layers between the layers that we don't know about, and the sort of mystery of this piece, and the way that it probably is very mysterious to move around it in actual space. This is a wonderful piece. So congratulations. All right. Oh, okay. David Schleifer and Tracy Gilman, Soft Body 1. So this is, this is a really interesting material, and it's so clean and so fresh. And I just love the feeling of this piece, which is just so crisp. And these materials, the cables, which kind of speak to both technology and progression towards this more technologically advanced future, but also toward, it speaks also to the idea of obsolescence and the reclaiming of these materials, for an art form at this point. And so it's kind of both like future and past at the same time. And I really love that the title of this, The Soft Body, that curve does sort of evoke so many, the image of softness and the image of body, but this material itself actually seems like pretty juxtaposed to that idea. And I really like that tension between the two. So wonderful, wonderful job on this. Okay. Googly eyes, Victoria Hanks. Congratulations, Victoria. This piece I really, really enjoy, and I'm so glad that I get to talk about it a little bit, because I think, this to me is so refreshing, and it feels like this, it's both serious and funny. There's humor in it to me, and it's odd, but it's also serious. It's present, but it's also almost ghostly in this, form that's evoking a figure, but it's made of these garments, which look to me like undergarments. And so there's kind of a lot going on with this piece. And then this layering of, gesso and acrylic sort of takes it out of its textiliness, but the textile is not lost. And so that's something that I really enjoyed. And honestly, these pieces, there's 2 in the series, I have been thinking about beyond when I juried the show, and they kind of keep just popping into my head over and over again. So they're really wonderful pieces. Okay, and so now we are moving into the Juror's Choice Award. And so this piece by Erin Juliana is called Lineaments. And it feels, again, this felt very fresh and very exciting to me, both soft and hard. And it, like so many textile practices, kind of harkens back or references to the grid. And the grid is here, it's present, very present, but also obscured in some places. So it, to me, almost feels like a celebration of that grid and of that inner structure, but also a little bit of a rebellion against it in the way that it kind of, comes forth out of that grid and covers it up. And so it, to me, also has this very both like textile, bodily, botanical, kind of, all of these different realms to me sort of were being touched on in this piece. And I really enjoyed this one and the rest in that series. And so I just think this is a fantastic work. Congratulations, Erin. Okay, so All American Special by Jeff Bolander. I really thought that this piece was such a gorgeous way of using imagery and text and even actual fabrics from the past to speak about this fragmentation of who we are today, and little bits of, like this and that, and sort of Americana and the American experience. Looking closely at what these little fragments of fabric in this collage actually are. They're grain sacks, it looks like, and maybe reminiscent of like old stencil patterns and old lettering. And so there's kind of that little bit of like a hopeful, nostalgic sense, but it's also definitely dark and a little bit obscured. And I really think that kind of speaks to the title and, what that actually could mean, and the range and the depth of what that could really mean for us today. So this is a wonderful piece. Congratulations, Jeff. All right, so the next piece is Warp and Weft by Rowan Williams Hull. And this piece is just, to me, it's a celebration of process and repetition and just what can be achieved with a very simple process done over and over again. It's just a really wonderful use of line and color, the subtlety of it, to bring out that texture and pattern that we see from a little bit further away. And this is just, it speaks to me on some, haptic level. And so I think that's really what drew me to it. Beautiful work. Okay, and then the last piece is by Rima Day, and that's Scriptum 13. And these are stitch designs, and they really kind of reminded me of both patterns found in nature, in plants, but also very much in the body. And of course, that red thread takes me right to thinking about blood vessels and what's revealed on the inside. And so the transparency in the way that we're seeing through, and the vulnerability of that, it just kept making me think, like, this is a book that's meant to be opened, we're meant to see the inside, but do I really want, would I want people to see my inside? And so I really was kind of connecting with it in that way, and just thinking about, connection and vessels and blood and plants, and it kind of just got me on this spiral of, all of these things. But it's really just quite beautiful work, and again just evoked that sort of sense of maybe something beautiful but also forbidden. So really wonderful job, Rima.
So Hillary, I think that is the last of the awards. I wanted to go ahead and open it up to any of the artists who are on the call right now to see whether there are any questions or any comments that anybody would like to make with respect to the work that they've seen this afternoon.
That sounds great. And I just again want to say this was really tough. The choices were very difficult because all the work was so wonderful.
And I have a question for the artists. If anybody is willing to share, I'm very curious to know how each of you get into this type of work, and how do you make a choice, or how do you choose the materials that you're using to create the work that you do? Feel free to take yourself off mute and just start talking.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
Well, thank you everyone for your time, and well, I'm pretty excited to be here. And I completely agree with Hillary. She was like she was very, how do you say, pointedly, like, the thing is, like, I work with the concept of body, and when I started to work with this concept, I started to investigate how can I make this body more organic. And when I investigate about the sculpture, the sculpture in body, the body in the sculpture, I'm sorry, the body in the sculpture, and I found all the bodies were made of stone and silver or metals, on different metals. So I wanted to make a different body, an organic body, a real body that bends, that falls, that gets tired, that grows, I don't know. Well, and I started to thinking and to explore in different materials, and this is how I get into textile. I found like organic materials like silk, felt, cotton. But it's very expensive. Like, well, to make one of these, you need like, I don't know, like 70 meters of felt, and thick. And well, that's why I started to make it with polyester felt. So in order to get a body that gets tired, that bends also. So mostly that's how I get here. And I'm pretty excited right now because as they say, well, they're beautiful works too. And with textile, this is my first time like working with textile and now I found this incredible artist, and well, yeah, great experience. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's so much meaning in material and material choice, I think. And again, that makes so much sense to me. Textile and its relationship to body. It's almost like it's body to body. The way we relate to textiles is very much a bodily experience. And I think some textiles are actually coming from other bodies, like silk, like wool, like leather. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it
that's
makes so
true.
much sense to me that, this was your choice. And that's so poetic, the way that a body gets tired and a body ages, and the textile reflects that in a way that a harder material might not.
I guess I'll say something a little bit about how we got to using the electrical cables, because that's really quite far from tiles. And so my collaborator and I, David and I, had been working together and collaborating with a variety of more performance art, actually. And we got the opportunity to submit a work for a show that had a theme, and it was commerce. And we were talking about the ideas of currents and how those two kind of interplay with each other. And David had this real interest in Native American tapestries and quilts. And from some of those inspirations, we made the connections to electricity and how commerce is transferred through electricity nowadays. And so through those concepts and ideas, we started talking a little bit about how can we use the idea of electricity, which then got us to the idea of using electrical cables and then creating tapestry-like forms with them and using the internal elements and external elements together to create those kind of layers. And as tapestries were themselves used as currency. And so that is kind of how we came to our materials.
Gosh, I love that, actually. And it's so funny too, because now that you say the word current, that's kind of all I can think about with this. But it was not, that word did not even run through my mind in thinking about, of course, like what's actually passing through these cables. So it's always funny to have your own thoughts about the work and then to hear more about it or to understand, have a deeper understanding of it. It's that's a really lovely thing, to think about the connection and the current and the currency and the way that relates back to textiles.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy and David, we actually have a question for you as to how do you hold the individual cables together?
So I don't know, in that illustration, if you can, the photo of the kind of arched piece, the image on the left, there's a little bit on the very far left, the yellow cable. You can see this tiny little kind of bump. And so we use, actually, it's secured on the back with screws. And really that's kind of, we have a couple of almost like spines or frames, I guess, that you can, I don't know what we would call it, but we use those to secure the cabling together. And it's really quite a really durable material. Those cables are really dense and they're incredibly heavy. So that's how we attach them.
I love knowing more about that. Thank you. It's like pulling the curtain back. Now we know.
I can speak for being there, helping to hang the show and being responsible for putting it together after Hillary made the choices. It was astounding to see the variety of works. We're seeing a couple of things, and most certainly Hillary's choices, which are wonderful, just outrageous pieces. But when you walk the gallery, there is a cohesiveness to this show, even in the fact that it is so eclectic and everything is so different, and yet it marries together very well. The piece that you're talking about with David and Tracy, that piece on the back had a system that Tracy put it very mildly, but it has an aluminum back where we screwed to the substrate, we screwed something to the wall and then it fit in perfectly. So for that matter, you know, even in that, we're weaving and we're working with fiber options, the option part of it. And when we talk about, let me think about this for a second. A materials exploration is one of the things we say in the prospectus. And so, because a lot of people will question us about what is fiber and what do you consider as fiber. And as you can see in the cable piece of work, there is technically the fiber that's in there is paper wrapping around the wire. So you can see that there is some element of fiber in it, but it's not just a physical fiber, it's what the viewer perceives as how something is woven or put together. So it doesn't always have to be fiber itself.
May I just jump in a little bit? The other piece that we have that we had in the show is a little bit more like a tapestry almost. In the dialogue, you know, we actually never, you know, really thought about it in that way until almost the feedback that we got from everybody. Most of the people, that was what they saw, was the intrinsic kind of fibers that kind of interweave themselves. Maybe it's not yarn or wool, you know, wool or cotton fibers, but the wire itself becomes an integral fiber within the piece itself and within the cables. So that was kind of our interpretation.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that more expansive, you know, definition of how we think about fiber and what fiber actually is starting to open up a lot more, and that's exciting because there's so many things. I know I'm biased about this, but I think everything is fiber. You know, where do we draw the line?
Well, it was really helpful to get that feedback because we ourselves kind of had, you know, slightly closed mind, and it was really wonderful to kind of see the connections that we were really making direct references to textile. I mean, that was definitely intentional. You know, we kind of had to have that kind of reframing to think about it in that way. So that was nice.
I'll just say too that, you know, something that came to mind when I was during the show and looking through all the work, I had so many curiosities about who the artists were and if this was new work or if, you know, they had an entire body of work that was like this. And I wanted so badly to be able to go and look online or Instagram or something and see everyone's work. And so, you know, not knowing anyone's name was frustrating in the best way because there really was such an amazing amount of fantastic work. And I'm very curious to kind of go back and look through the show and connect some dots and look some people.
Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you to all of you. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Cass. Thank you to all of the artists who have contributed to this show. I hope that you take the opportunity to come in here at some point while this show is open. And I hope that you come on July 30th as we have a closing reception, really to celebrate you all and your work. It is something else to behold when you are here in the gallery, seeing it all together. As Cass says, it comes together in such a beautiful and cohesive way. So please join us July 30th from 4 to 6 to celebrate the closing of this show.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
I was there to celebrate with you.
Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Congratulations, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.